Hello everyone and welcome to Innovative Science Tutorials. Students, today we are going to learn about the process of fertilization in flowering plants, and this will be the last topic from the chapter Reproduction in Plants. Those who did not see the previous video about pollination, they will find it quite difficult, so it's better, children, that you all first watch that video of pollination so that you can understand the concept of fertilization properly. So I will share the link of that video in the I button as well as in the description box. Please check it out before watching this video. Okay, so let us start, children. See, students, in order to understand the entire process of fertilization, first of all, we need to be aware about two things, two structures actually. First is the female gamete, okay, that I will teach you now, and the next is male gamete that I will teach you later on, okay, today itself. Now children, in this diagram, that in the first picture, what you can notice, let us say this is the first picture and this is the second picture. In this you can notice that there are 3 ovules inside the ovary. Okay, how many ovules are there? 3 ovules are there, and each ovule, if we see internally, it consists of a structure that is called an embryo sac. So in this diagram, 3 ovules, and each of the ovule will contain one structure that is called what? That is called embryo sac. That means we have ovule first. Inside ovule we have the embryo sac, and there is something inside the embryo sac as well, which I will teach you just now. Now see children, look at the second diagram, okay, second picture. What you can see the structure of an embryo sac. So this structure, that is embryo sac, is located inside the ovule. Now I hope you understood. So what all are the different parts of this embryo sac? Let us study one by one. Now first of all, let us first see that there are 2 locations or 2 positions according to which we have divided the various parts. The first position is called the micropylar end. Why is it called micropylar end? This surface, why is it called micropylar end? This is because, children, this opening is known as micropyle. Micropyle is the opening in an ovule through which the pollen tube enters, okay, during the process of fertilization. Next is, you can see this area, this surface of the embryo sac is called the chalaza, and that is why this location or this position is called chalazial end, okay? Because why, children? Because it is towards the chalaza. So the surface or the position towards the micropyle is called micropylar end, whereas the surface or position of the embryo sac towards the chalaza is called the chalazial end. Now next is what? You can see 3 cells here, green colored 3 cells towards the chalazial end. What are they known as? They are known as the antipodal cells or simply antipodals. Now next you can see there is a large cell, very big cell, and occupying the major portion of the embryo sac. What is the name of this, children? This is called the central cell. What is it called? It is called the central cell. Inside the central cell you can see 2 polar nuclei indicated by light green color. So these are the 2 polar nuclei. Next, let us come to the micropylar end. Here you can see two cells which are indicated by orange color, and they are located towards the sides. What are they known as, children? They are known as the synergids. They are known as the synergids. And in between the 2 synergids there is another cell that is called the egg cell. Now this egg cell is actually the female gamete. Okay, this is the actual female gamete. In general, you all say that ovule is the female gamete, lekin beta, the correct thing is the egg cell inside the embryo sac of an ovule is the female gamete of a flower. Next is the structure of pollen grain. I have already drawn the diagram in order to save some time and make the video short, children. So let us see. The pollen grain, a young pollen grain, it is represented in the diagram number 1. This is a young pollen grain. Now, a young pollen grain, like the mature pollen grain, it is composed of two membranes. The outer membrane is rough and it is called what? It is called exine. Whereas the inner membrane, it is smooth and it is called intine. It is called intine. And what is the characteristic over here? Special feature, it is smooth. Okay, so intine. Next, what you can see? Next, you can see there is a gap in the membrane, that is exine. That is called what, children? That is called the germ pore, and it is very important part here. This is called germ pore. Next, you can see there is a nucleus. Now, this is the appearance of a pollen grain when it is immature or young. Now let us see the second diagram. This depicts a mature pollen grain. Now there is a difference, children, in the young and mature pollen grain. What is the difference? Give me some time, I am teaching you. Now all the parts are as it is, but there is a huge change in the nucleus. Now there are two structures inside this pollen grain. Once it attains maturity, that is once it becomes sexually mature. One is called the generative cell. Okay, so this is the generative cell. What is it? This is the generative cell which will take part in sexual reproduction. Next is what? Next you will see one more smaller cell, nucleus. Okay, here you will see one nucleus, that is called the tube nucleus. In some book it is directly written tube cell. Okay, both are the same thing. Actually this is a nucleus, simply a nucleus called the tube nucleus, also known as the vegetative nucleus. So both are same, whether you say vegetative or you say tube, both are the same thing. Tube nucleus, vegetative nucleus. Now the nucleus that is more important is the generative nucleus, because this generative nucleus actually contains the sperm nucleus. Okay, initially there will be only one sperm nucleus, and later on during the process of fertilization you will find that this divides into two sperm nuclei. That's why I have written directly generative cell will the nucleus inside the generative cell will give rise to two sperm nuclei. Okay, and these two nuclei will actually do the process of fertilization. Next is fertilization. What is fertilization? It is an act of fusion of male and female gamete so as to produce a zygote, which is the first cell having life inside it. Male and female gamete, they are diploid in nature. That means they have half the number of chromosomes that are present in normal cell. Okay, so they are haploid in nature. When they combine, they give rise to a zygote which is diploid in nature, represented by 2n. Haploid, that is the gametes, they are represented by only n. We say that the gametes are haploid in nature. Now fusion is what? Fusion of the male and female gamete is fertilization. Again, this fertilization is also known as syngamy. Okay, fertilization is also known as syngamy. Now what actually happens just before the fertilization is pollination, but in between pollination and fertilization there is something very important. Children, as soon as the pollen grain lands on the surface of the stigma, it starts absorbing water. So once it starts absorbing water, it undergoes a process that is called germination of the pollen grain. Germination of the pollen grain. Now during germination, what happens? A protuberance is formed. You can see this elongation of the pollen grain takes place through the germ pore. कहाँ से? Very important question. through the germ pore, that is the gap in the membrane. Okay, I have shown you just before some time. So a pollen tube formation takes place. Not only that, you can see the generative cell starts shifting towards the pollen tube, and the tube nucleus or the vegetative nucleus had already shifted immediately after the formation or the onset of formation of the pollen tube. ठीक है, जैसे ही pollen tube फॉर्म होना स्टार्ट होता है वैसे ही दोनों के दोनों न्यूक्लियस pollen tube के अंदर शिफ्ट होने लगते हैं. So this is generative cell and the tube nucleus. Next, what you can see that this pollen tube elongates further, and the generative cell, which contains a nucleus, its nucleus splits into two sperm nuclei. So now you can understand that this generative cell was actually the male gamete part of the pollen grain. Okay, यही था पोलन ग्रेन के अंदर जो मेल गैमेट होता है वो. ठीक है, कौन? जनरेटिव न्यूक्लियस. जैसा कि हमने फीमेल गैमेट कहाँ पे देखा? एम्ब्रायो सैक के अंदर. एम्ब्रायो सैक के अंदर कौन सा पार्ट? inside the embryo sac, the egg cell. ठीक है, now I hope you got. So embryo sac के अंदर क्या है? फीमेल गैमेट है. नाम क्या है? egg cell नाम है. उसी तरह पोलन ग्रेन के अंदर कौन है? पोलन ग्रेन के अंदर है जनरेटिव सेल. जनरेटिव सेल ही क्या है? मेल गैमेट है. ठीक है, जनरेटिव सेल ही मेल गैमेट है. आज आप लोगों को सब कुछ क्लियर हो गया होगा कि एक्चुअली क्या होता है. और एक सेल यहाँ पे जो है हमारा ये है फीमेल गैमेट. Now let us proceed, children. Let's understand the process of fertilization with the help of this diagram now. Now the pollen tube has already reached till the micropylar end. What you will notice, these two sperm nuclei, they will finally enter the embryo sac, and you can see their location over here in the diagram. Next, what happens? Out of these two sperm nuclei, one sperm nucleus will fuse with the egg nucleus, egg cell nucleus. Okay, now this process is called what? This is called syngamy. Okay, syngamy. This will produce a diploid zygote. Okay, represented by 2n. Both the gametes are haploid in nature, represented by n. So n plus n, that is 2n. That condition of the zygote is called diploid. Okay, I hope you have understood. Next, what will happen? One more sperm nucleus is still left. What will happen to that? Let us understand. You can see, children, in the central cell there are two polar nuclei. Okay, two polar nuclei are there. They will undergo fusion. They will fuse themselves to form what? They will form a secondary nucleus. This is the first change that will take place. So secondary nucleus will be formed, and now with this secondary nucleus, the another sperm nuclei will actually fuse. Nucleus will fuse. Understood? पहले पोलर न्यूक्लियाई जो है वो आपस में फ्यूज कर जाएंगे, एक स्ट्रक्चर बनाएंगे जिसको हम लोग बोलेंगे सेकेंडरी न्यूक्लियस. अब ये सेकेंडरी न्यूक्लियस के साथ जो एक बचा हुआ स्पर्म न्यूक्लियस है वो जाके फ्यूज कर जाएगा. आई होप यू आर गेटिंग मी व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. अंडरस्टूड? सो व्हाट हैपेंड? Two polar nuclei unite to form the secondary nucleus, and then one sperm nucleus from the pollen tube, okay, unites with the secondary nucleus to form a structure. Very, very important structure beta. That structure is known as endosperm. क्या बोलते हैं उसको? Endosperm. This is the nutritive tissue, ठीक है, of the growing embryo, and this is known as endosperm. So if I ask you that how many times did fertilization takes place altogether, the correct answer will be 3 times. How many times, children? 3 times, and that is why we call the process of fertilization in flowering plants as triple fusion. The first fusion is between the egg cell, okay, egg cell and the first sperm nucleus. Second is between the two polar nuclei, which will lead to the formation of a secondary nucleus. And the third one, the secondary nucleus so formed will fuse with the remaining, that is one sperm nucleus that was left, okay, after syngamy. So 3 times fertilization will take place, and that is why this is called, the entire process of fertilization in flowering plants is called triple fusion. I hope everything is clear about fertilization, children. Last but not the least, children, we have seed dispersal. Seed dispersal is carrying away of seeds from one place to another. Now the important thing which you should know here is, why is seed dispersal so important? Why is seed dispersal important? The answer is that, children, if the seed remain in the place where the parent plant is present, then in that case all the seeds, maybe 90% of the seed, whatever it, because it is not necessary that all the seeds will successfully germinate, that is why I am saying, but maximum of them will germinate in the place where the parent tree or plant was there, okay. So this will lead to what? This will lead to competition for food, for sunlight and water. Competition for food, sunlight and water between them. And children, you must be aware that एक plant का जो nutrient requirement होता है, suppose there is a plant A and it requires more of potassium, so all the plants of that type, suppose mango, will require the same nutrient, and this will in turn reduce the fertility of the soil by reducing the amount of that particular nutrient from the soil. Why? Because so many plants all together, they are located in the same place and they are consuming the same mineral, let us say potassium, तो potassium खत्म हो जाएगा या बहुत कम हो जाएगा उस जगह के soil से, तो ये भी एक reason है apart from food, water and sunlight. Next is, how many methods of seed dispersals are there? Children, there are 3 methods of seed dispersal depending upon the type of agent that is required for the dispersal of seed. What are these agents? Let us first know. First is wind, second is water and third is animal. So these are the 3 agents required for dispersal of seed. So when there is dispersal by wind, we simply call it seed dispersal by wind. Similarly, we have seed dispersal by water and the third one, seed dispersal by animals. Let us deal with all these one by one. So when the seeds are dispersed by wind, the type of dispersal is called seed dispersal by wind. And what is the feature of the seeds that are pollinated by wind? Children, they must be light. Isn't it? The seeds must be light, and most of them, they do have the wings or hairs so that they can be easily carried away by wind. You can see in the example, children, this is of maple, okay, this is again dandelion, you have in these diagrams. So best examples that you get is drumstick, maple, sunflower, ack, etc. Okay. Now next is, children, seed dispersed by water. As you all know, here the agent is water. So it is 100% sure that that tree or plant whose seed has to be dispersed by water must be located somewhere near the water body. So the best example I can give you here is a coconut tree. When the coconut tree, which is usually located on the bank of a river or a sea, suppose the fruit, that is the coconut from that tree, falls on the surface of water, what happens? The water carries it along with its current or wave. ऐसा क्यों possible है? Because coconut is fibrous in nature. When I say fibrous in nature, I means it is composed of a lot of fibers that is present in the outer shell. ठीक है? So like this, so many fibers will be there. ठीक है? So this actually makes the coconut light, right? Understood? This actually makes the coconut very light, these fibers, and this in turn helps in the carrying away of this coconut by water. Okay, whatsoever the water may be, whether it is a river or a sea, whatever it is, but this is the fact, this fact, that is the coconut shell is fibrous in nature, and in turn it makes the coconut light, helps in the dispersal of coconut by water. Next is the last one, children, that is seed dispersed by animals. Now here, in order to this, for the seeds to be get dispersed by animal, they must have a spine. As you can see, this is xanthium diagram, children. This is the diagram of a plant that is known as xanthium, and it is a spiny plant. You can see so many spines are there on the body of this plant. So why so? This is because, so when the animals come in contact with these, they can easily get a stick to the body of that animal and gets carried away or dispersed from one place to another. So here the example, as I said you, it is xanthium. I hope now everything is clear, children. So that's all for today, children. See you all very soon in the next class with a new topic. Till then, stay tuned. Give your valuable feedback in the comment box. Thank you.